Right now, the United States of America is launching a new strike against Iran. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced the start of economic D-Day against Iran, calling the campaign the largest financial offensive against an adversary. It has become known that the US Treasury intends to expand the use of secondary sanctions against companies and countries that maintain business ties with Iran in order to increase pressure on Tehran. The official announcement of the sanctions is scheduled for Monday evening European time, but the Iranian currency has already hit another record low. Just think about it, for $1 you get 2 million Iranian rials. The fall of the Iranian rial to a historic low became one of the main reasons for the mass protests at the beginning of 2026, which ended with their forceful suppression. And today, the Iranian rial in Tehran hit a new record low. That's why Iran is already threatening to strike back, but not at the US, rather at neighboring Persian Gulf countries. But at the same time, a completely unexpected revelation emerges. The United States of America has approached Pakistan to revive negotiations with the regime in Tehran. And today, a representative of the Pakistani army landed in Tehran, and tomorrow Tehran is expecting a representative from Oman. So, let's discuss this topic. My name is Alexi Pieci, and before we begin, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, like the episode, and don't forget to leave your comment. So, the United States Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, has announced the start of economic D-Day against Iran. According to Bessent, this is the largest financial offensive ever launched against an adversary. He outlined his position in a post on the X platform and in a separate column in the Financial Times, both published on the same day. Bessent stated that the military campaign of US President Donald Trump severely damaged Iran's military capabilities and weakened its nuclear program. He added that the administration is now entering the final stage of the war and that economic measures will begin to take effect at dawn. As he puts it, he means any moment now. The goal, according to the head of the US Treasury, is to cut off all economic channels that fuel the tyrannical regime until Tehran is left in complete isolation. That was a quote. Bessent warned that countries that continue to buy or transport Iranian oil facilitate financial flows through exchange offices and free economic zones, handle voyages, maintain ship registries, or facilitate fuel transshipment at sea, risk accelerating their own isolation if they do not sever their remaining ties with Iran. These statements came after remarks by US President Donald Trump last week. At that time, let me remind you, Trump announced in a True Social post what he called the most devastating economic operation ever carried out against anyone. Despite all these loud statements, specific measures have not been outlined yet and will be announced a little later. Well, in the meantime, as I already said, it has emerged that the Americans have indeed asked Pakistan to help resume peace talks with Iran. And today the first footage has already appeared showing the Chief of Staff of the Pakistani army, Asim Munir, arriving in Tehran for talks with Iranian officials. So this means that the negotiation track hasn't gone anywhere either. Trump claims that no negotiations are taking place, but in reality they are continuing behind the scenes. And judging by the outline presented by Scott Bessent, the sanctions package may focus on secondary sanctions against countries and organizations that continue to purchase Iranian oil or handle Iran's financial transactions, work with affiliated banks, or support shipping and other commercial channels, on top of the existing maritime blockade. Well, it's interesting to watch how the market behaves, and the market has basically stopped reacting adequately to all these statements from Washington. On Monday morning, oil prices were falling despite the tougher rhetoric. At the time of recording this episode, benchmark Brent crude oil is trading at around $91.5 per barrel. That's $2 lower than the closing level on Friday. The drop may be due to profit-taking after the recent rise, as well as reports of a temporary increase in tanker traffic through the Hormuz Strait. I should note here that according to shipping statistics, published today by Axios, on the night leading into Friday, meaning this is the latest data, yes, on the night leading into Friday, along the southern channel of the Hormuz Strait, that's along the coast of Oman, about 40 tankers passed through, carrying roughly 16 million barrels of oil. That's more than the 15 to 20 ships that were recorded on previous nights. As I mentioned before, the American military really did organize such night runs, which took place at night, under the cover of darkness and under the protection of American troops. At the same time, along the same route, all these tankers entered the Persian Gulf. They load up there, and then at a certain time, and along a specific route, they leave the Gulf. And so, on Thursday night, they managed to get 40 tankers through like this. Of course, that's a lot, but it's still significantly lower than the numbers seen before the war began. Well, Iran, not yet knowing what the sanctions will be, has already moved on to new threats. The Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, Hsen Rizai, spoke on Sunday about possible retaliatory measures by Tehran. And now I will quote him directly, without any omissions. If the economic war continues, not a single drop of oil will be exported either through the Hormuz Strait or from any point in the Persian Gulf. Iran will consider the participation or support of any country in the US economic war against the Iranian people as an open act of war. At the same time, the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which by the way could be affected by the new sanctions because Chinese refineries accept Iranian oil and Chinese banks process these payments. And the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs stated on Monday that Beijing, as a trading partner of Tehran, will closely monitor the development of the situation and, if necessary, will take measures to protect its interests. Meanwhile, Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Esmail Baghai also said today that Omani Foreign Minister Said Badr al-Busaidi will arrive in Tehran as early as Tuesday to continue negotiations on managing shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. At the same time, Iran has warned that vessels violating the rules established by Tehran, the rules for passing through the Strait of Hormuz, may face measures such as fines, detention, or confiscation. By the way, this was reported by the Persian Gulf Affairs Administration. This is a new body created by Iran to manage the Strait of Hormuz, which, I remind you, is still an international waterway. But Iran has also slowly started to put its threats into action, but, as always, it's not doing it entirely with its own hands. Today, the UK Maritime Trade Operations reported that 63 nautical miles west of the Saudi port city of Yanbu, in the Red Sea, a tanker was hit by an unknown projectile, causing a fire on the ship's main deck. Remember this moment. Later that Monday afternoon, Iran's accomplices, that is the Yemeni Houthis, announced missile strikes on the positions of Saudi Arabian forces on the borders with Yemen and on Saudi Arabian territory itself. According to a representative of the command, the strikes were carried out on camps in Al-Abr, Al-Wadiya and Al-Kanais in territory controlled by the internationally recognized and Saudi Arabia-supported Presidential Leadership Council of Yemen. In addition, the Houthis confirmed that they were the ones who struck the tanker in the Red Sea. They reported that the Amzan tanker was attacked with a ballistic missile which caused a fire on board. So, what we discussed earlier is happening now. So, the fact that the US is moving to the economic phase of the war does not mean that Iran will abandon the military phase. Although Iran is already feeling the effects of sanctions that haven't even been imposed yet. The Iranian rial has hit a new low. Its exchange rate on the black market has dropped to 2 million rials for $1. At the end of December 2025, when the protests began, let me remind you, $1 was worth about 1.5 million rials. And by that time, the exchange rate had already dropped by 60% after the 12-day war.
С Израилем в июне 2025 года.
Oil exports from Iran have practically stopped, said the chairman of the Central Bank of Iran, Abdolnasser Hemati, last week. As a result of the US naval blockade, loaded Iranian tankers are unable to actually leave the Persian Gulf, beyond which a whole fleet of empty ships is waiting for them. Near Malaysia, where traditionally Iranian oil is transshipped for delivery to Chinese refineries, now empty tankers are idling, waiting for the oil that can't leave the Persian Gulf. Moreover, without waiting for new sanctions, the United Arab Emirates, which used to be one of Iran's main trading partners, last week suspended all financial operations with Tehran. So a new phase of the war has begun, and as soon as the full package of sanctions is announced, you and I will meet again on this YouTube channel. So don't forget to subscribe and click the bell to get notified about new episodes. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye everyone.